Thrand here, and as promised, I'm back with the Canaanite Khopesh that we tested in a previous video against the Ewart Park and the Now 2. And it was clearly the winner in my mind is shield and sword combat against a lightly armored opponent like you would run into in like a desert region like in Egypt, where these type of weapons were used. With the cloth armors that they would have, most of them wearing cloth or lightly armored or no armor at all, and just using a shield and maybe a light helm or something, it worked spectacularly. It left a good wound, as good as the Ewart Park and the thrusting when we thrusted on the really hard plastic here. We've already shown how hard that is. It's almost like hardened leather. It's very difficult. You have to cut this with a saw if you want to sit there and cut into it. What we're going to do today is we're going to test out Wes Beem's Langan Seax, and it's a beautiful cutter. The main difference is it's a hair longer. I would say it's about a good inch or so longer. It's a straight edge, but there are some similarities. Other than the unusual shape of the Khopesh and it being a broader blade, they're both back swords. Back swords mean there's no edge on the back, that they're reinforced by being a wedge shape. So is the Canaanite Khopesh. And then the Egyptian Khopesh was the same way. Although there are some versions of the Egyptian Khopesh where it's speculative whether the tip was sharpened. This one is not, and there is no edge on the back of the Khopesh. But what we're going to do today is compare the thrust that we thrust on this with the actual Khopesh and see how it works with the Langan Seax, or the Langan Seax. She'll start off thrusting with the Langan Seax on the hardened bottle, just like we did with the other swords, as you saw the Khopesh do. And then we're going to move into some heavier Gambeson or heavy linens, like really thick layers of it. Now, this is an extremely broad blade. It's as broad as the Ewart Park. Let's see what kind of wound. I do have the cap on quite tightly. Excellent. That wound is just as substantial as the Ewart Park or the actual Khopesh. So on that, I'm going to have to say they're not quite even, because this takes a little less force to go in. The Khopesh does take a little bit more force in thrusting, but other than that, the wound is approximately the same. And it was able to go through this material. Go ahead and thrust it once more, possibly. Losing water pressure, but it's still easily able to go in. Beautiful hole. We shall now move on to our Gambeson. We're going to start our test off. I'm sorry I'm talking loudly because we have quite a bit of wind today. With 8 layers of the coarse, tightly woven linen, and 2 layers of a lighter cloth with a felt padding in the center. This is equivalent to a form of Gambeson. It's not going to be the heaviest Gambeson, but it is enough Gambeson to pose a challenge. Even more than the Seax or the Seax, or Seax, however you like to pronounce it, the Langan Seax, did before, the Seax. Let's go ahead and try that out. We shall start off with the Khopesh. We have our Gambeson on the bottom, which is approximately 10 layers of cloth with the heavy felt padding in the center. That gives it some bounce and some absorption of energy, which may keep this from going all the way through. Our Khopesh has been sharpened to make sure it's razor sharp, and our bottle gives like a belly, very much like a belly. It is more difficult material to cut. It's more like skin to actually cut the bottle. But of course the water is less resistant to the ballistics gel, so once we get through, we're through. But let's go ahead and see if we can make it through. I'm going to use the same casting style technique, which I believe it's more like an axe throwing type technique, throwing the blade out. And that's what I think this hook works so well for in the recent setup in this mag. Did the same cut I did the other day when we cut the 2 layers. It was only 2 layers of this cloth. And it was still difficult to cut. It proved difficult for the Ewart Park and the Now 2. They barely made it through with the tip shots. See how far we made it in. We made it all the way through, but we did not cut the bottom. In case there's any doubt on the first attempt I made, that it went clean through, but not cutting the bottle. Because like I said, this material is not easy to cut. A lot of people believe it is because most people cut bottles in videos, but it can resist cutting quite well. If you don't believe me, I did a video a long time ago where I tried just cutting the bottles with no water in them with razor sharp blades, and you couldn't cut it just like you would cut, meat or what have you. But anyway, we've got all the way through and stopped at the bottom. Let's see if we can do better than that. The padding may be making a difference in just having layers of water. Oh! We made it. And from my judging of how far we made it through the back of the bottle, we went in a good 2 inches. Everyone can see how bad the cut is and how clean it is. That's a beautiful, clean cut. And the way I'm judging how deep it went, which I don't want to get our Gambeson totally wet here, is how far it came out back here. That's over 2 inches. So that is an excellent cut. I'll start removing our
Oh, so the angle of the blade would help.
Oh yeah, the angled blade, especially that sharper curvature, actually makes quite the difference. But one of the things about this kind of testing, you want to show them the damage. Yes, I think that went through there and came out
finally
at least 2 inches or so, if not more, over here.
It should stop bleeding in a second.
Yes, it should. That was one heck of a wound. If we want to examine that quickly, the reason it quite didn't make it through the bottle is the part that it made it into was less than an inch, so it barely scratched the bottle, but it went through a lot of cloth. A lot of layers of cloth. It actually made it through. That was an impressive performance by the Canaanite Khopesh. I'm sure the Egyptian Khopesh would fare just as well, same design, just a little bit more intricate on the fluting and stuff, hardening. Not as streamlined, so maybe not as good on the cuts when it comes to the roll-wet newspapers, if who knows. Love to test one of those soon. Right now we're going to continue with Wes Beem's Langan Seax, or Seax. Most people just say Seax. Could also be considered a screw Seax. So let's go ahead and cut this. I have no doubt this is going to cut. I have a really good feeling it will. It has a little more blade heft, an extra inch. All those factors add to how much force, and it pulls an extremely good edge. I don't have to touch it up as often as I would bronze to keep it razor sharp. So let's see what happens. I think it's going to do extremely well. Got the exact same amount of Gambeson with a new bottle. The exact same setup. Oh! Perfectly clean cut, clear through, and we cut the entire side of the bottle out. Much deeper. Could have been my angle that I came in with, but yes. I could consider this the angle of cut, so I would say we went in over 3 inches with this. The little extra weight, which is not just a little bit, I mean, that's a lot in a sword. I mean, almost a half a pound, I'd say. Almost. Yes. But to see them perform almost identically cutting through this type of material is very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. The reason why is the cloth itself, most blades have trouble going through. I've seen longer blades like arming swords. If you don't use the correct angle, tip shot can barely make it through. Old migrational era swords, Viking age swords, have trouble making it through unless you hit the tip just right off. So I'm going to have to say, between the blades, I'm going to have to say it's a tie or a draw. The reason I say that, this sword having our actual Seax, larger blade, but not a full-length sword at the time period, could hack through shields. We've done that in the videos when we tested out Wes Beem's Seax. We've been able to chop into shields, cut into them, and that's the way this one would help destroy a shield. It's just like an axe, it just tears the shield up. Where the actual Khopesh itself is designed, it actually means a hind leg, and it looks very much like the hind leg of an animal, is able to hook the shield, pull the shield, thrust around the shield. So it has a different advantage. Instead of trying to hack through the shield, you can bypass the shield with it, very much like you do with a bearded axe or crook spear, where you hook the shield and spear the person with the spear. This one here, like I said, is very good at hacking, and it would tear a shield up like in Holmgang. We hear that in sagas, the Holmgang, where they use swords like this and they actually tear each other's shields up, taking turns. So both the weapons, I think it's this one did a little bit more damage, but it is a modern material and has more heft, blade heft. But due to the purpose and the way they work, I say it's almost a draw. I would pretty much give it a draw, and that's saying something, comparing this to an older bronze blade, even though I do have a affection for bronze. Anyway, thank you very much, Neil Burridge, for your Canaanite Khopesh, and thank you, James Jenkins, for commissioning him to make it for us, and thank you very much, Wes Beem, for allowing us to retain this wonderful Viking Langan Seax or Sax. I hope you all enjoyed the episode. I would like to say one other thing to add to this. You can go by Patreon, and if for $1 a month, start putting out a lot more exclusive content that you can see on Patreon for only $1 a month. I can't say that none of it will ever be released on our channel as well, but you'll get to see it first, and maybe in a different way than others will see it when it's actually finally released on the channel. Because we're having a lot of trouble right now with the advertising. For some reason, they've got some kind of filters, and anything they think that's not family friendly, they're not giving us the advertisements we used to have. So you'd come in, you'd see an advertisement you like, a mainstream movie or something, and you get a few cents on it or a cent on it or something, and it helps us out. That's what helps us keep the channel going. Well, now we're not getting those mainstream advertisements from a lot of corporations and companies that are using these new filters, and so it helps us out a lot if you go by them. Help us out at Patreon if you can. Be sure and check us out on Facebook. We have the Thrand's Well of Remembrance, and we have the Thrand YouTube Boat Crew, which you can ask to be a member, which is a closed group, but we'll surely have you if you are into the historical arms and armor and the warriors of the past. I hope you all enjoyed the episode, and as always, farewell.